Hello, everyone, and this I don't normally do having to do with animals per se, but I felt the need to do this one because this video is talking about it kind of adds on to the times that we're living in that are changing. It might have more to do with overpopulation and building in mountain areas are not enough greenery, not enough space for natural uh, animals' environment and habitat. It's being invaded by all of the developments that are pretty much taking over all of the spaces. And so, what happens with that is you get more animals that you would see in the mountains or in areas, and they are in urban areas looking for food, or they come down in areas, or actually some of them don't even come down. They're in their habitat, but their habitat has been taken over by new development. And so there's more animal coyote attacks. And so attacks by urban coyotes are rare but frightening. And so there's more of these animals, or these poor animals that now are looked at as vicious. So it says a coyote attacked a 5-year-old boy near Peggy Note Bayard Nature Museum in Chicago on Wednesday, sending him to the hospital. So he was in stable condition, and the Chicago Fire Department reported this. And so later that day, the coyote bit an adult man on the buttocks, according to the news accounts. And so the man showed up at another Chicago hospital with a minor injury. So since the coyote had not been caught, it was not clear whether the same animal had attacked both people. So individual attacks, particularly of a child, are frightening. Although such events are rare, they are now common enough in major urban areas to be familiar. So the reason is extraordinary numbers of coyotes living in densely settled cities. And so coyotes have long been present in much of the North America, but since 1900s, their range has grown enormously, expanding east, north, south. And so in more recent decades, they have moved into the urban areas. And I would bet it's because they're looking for food, or there's been fires, or there's been homeless encampments where people have been living there, and then there's been cooking, and there's been fires, and then there's been new developments in mountainous areas, and so they run out of green space or habitat space, and so they've grown as well, and the population has grown, and so I'm adding that in there. And so now you have these animals who are not afraid to come down in urban areas, and they will attack. And they're looking for food because food is readily available in urban areas when you leave food out in dumpsters. And so I'm adding that in there because that is what they're doing now. These animals are in search of food, or they're in search of something. And so they still have their feral instincts, so they're going to attack. So coyotes have long been present, like it says, in much of North America, but since the 1900s, their range has grown enormously, expanding from north to south. In more recent decades, they have moved in urban areas. So coyotes have been colonizing, and they've colonized in canyons of Los Angeles at least since 1970s. So since that, the first seen in the Bronx in the 1990s, coyotes have grown in numbers on the streets of Manhattan and have attacked children in New York suburbs. And in New York, they have a lot of dumpsters, alleys, restaurants that just throw trash out everywhere. They have a whole lot of rats. And so that's a haven for animals like this. And so they have really taken to the Chicago area with an estimated 3,000 to 4,000 coyotes in Cook County, according to the Seth Magel the director of the Urban Wildlife Institute in the Lincoln Park Zoo. So he and his colleagues have been studying Chicago coyotes for about 10 years. So given the number of animals there, the attacks are extremely rare, he said. But their relationship with humans is profoundly complicated. So the day before the two attacks, the same fire department that took the little boy to the hospital rescued a coyote from Lake Michigan. So Chicago Animal Care and Control cared for a coyote by taking it to the Flint Creek Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. And so it tried to control the second by searching for it. And so the reason coyotes move into urban areas, this is their reasoning. To be like raccoons and white-tailed deer, they can adapt to the living around humans. Other canids like wolves, and they need space and bigger prey. And coyotes can survive on squirrels, mice, rabbits, and birds, which make up most of their diet in Chicago, Nagel said. And so what did I say? In New York, there's like a whole lot of rats. So if they like mice and rats, they're going to have a lot to eat. And so there's also a lot of food bags and things that restaurants will put out on the sidewalk. And so that is how they can survive. And so they do not eat much garbage, unlike raccoons, but they do eat some. And so by and large, they try to stay out of sight, and say they do remarkably well in cities, apparently having larger litters than they do in rural areas. Okay, because they can feed more. And there's lots of mice, lots of rats, rodents. And so also they have similar tastes to humans in terms of where they like to live. So coyotes prefer the richer part of town, Nagel said, perhaps because they are attracted to bigger yards and more places to hide, perhaps because of better access to garbage, just like what I've been saying. And so they are by nature nocturnal animals. And so the nature of the urban coyote is to stay out of our way, he said, but they're really good at this magic trick of living in the heart of our cities while avoiding us, but not always. Anyone in the city where coyotes live has seen them during the day, and in 2009, Stanley Gert and other researchers in Ohio State University did an analysis of 142 reports of coyotes in 1960 and 2006. So in Chicago, there are 20 times as many news accounts of coyote attacks. In 2005, there were, in 1990s, about 37% of the attacks appeared to be predatory. Okay, so small children are most at risk in this kind of attack. And so one question is that the scientists are asking about urban coyotes is whether they have become more bold, meaning more willing to try new things and take chances. And so Roland Case, North Carolina State University, one of the researchers looking into this question, said that coyotes are incredibly adaptable and that they have a great ability to assess risk in rural areas, and they are very shy around humans because a bold coyote is going to get shot. But in a city, that is probably not an issue. That's not an issue. So he suggested that the people should not overestimate the danger of coyotes, pointing out that dog bites are overwhelmingly more a problem than coyote attacks. Okay, but people are able to keep that problem in perspective and don't freak out when they see a dog. And so he said that in most cases, people should not be worried if they see a coyote, since almost all of the animals want to avoid people. But he warned, keep an eye out on them and be particularly alert if you have a small kid with you or if the coyotes are acting strangely or approaching people. So rabies is not common in coyotes, but it can occur. So in some attacks, he said humans had been feeding the coyotes, which makes them less afraid of people. And so also he said that people unwittingly feed coyotes when they put out cat food. So this is how a lot of your domesticated animals get killed by coyotes, because when you put out food, then these wild creatures or animals will come and they will fight for the food, and even if they have to kill your cat or kill your dog. And so I seen a lot of this in the Pasadena area, which is kind of in the close to Eden Canyon, where it's mountainous, and they have coyotes that actually end up like peacocks and coyotes and things that are on the street and near people's homes. And so a lot of their animals are in danger of these type of attacks, and their young people, babies, and what have you. And so there are a lot of coyotes that you see even around the school campuses. And so it says, don't feed coyotes, he said. So don't feed feral cats. Coyotes will eat the cat food, and then they'll eat the cats. So if you're feeding cats, you're also feeding coyotes twice. So this article originally appeared in the New York Times. And so this was something I normally don't really talk about, but the reason I'm talking about it is because of the changes and the way the world is, all of the building. And so you're going to see more of these animals more in the urban areas and in streets like New York, Chicago. And, you leave out trash, big, huge bags of food from restaurants. And then in New York, it's full of rats coming from the sewage, and they have food, and so you're also it's feeding these animals twice. And then people that live in cities where you have domesticated animals and you put food out for them, house cats or outdoor cats, now you're feeding these coyotes twice. Anyway, with that, having said that, it's like you build in the areas where their habitat naturally is, and now they're coming down, or either they're already in their area and you've invaded their space. So this is what you're going to end up with. Thanks for listening.